In this video, I'll talk about why sometimes we act in certain ways that are actually not so good. Why sometimes we over-dramatize some stuff. Why sometimes we say stuff that are not necessary. We give information that was not asked for. We understand the other person in a way that they didn't mean. Because that always happens, when someone tells you something and you're like, oh my god, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't get it that way, or whatever. So basically, we have a narrator in our head. The narrator that tells a story. As humans, we love telling stories. I mean, our whole lives are stories. We talk about our lives, we ask other people about their lives, which is their story, basically. We are built to tell stories. We built different. And those stories always depend on language. So in our brain, there's the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, and talking, the ability of language, is mostly located in the left brain. And there's a condition called split brain. Basically, split brain patients don't have a connection between their left and right brain, and because of that, their two halves of the brain can't communicate with each other. That means the information between them is not shared. So this is really interesting, because left part of your body is controlled by your right, and all the senses goes to the right part of your brain, and right part of your body is controlled by your left part of the brain. And yeah, it's just wired that way. So okay, there's this really cool experiment that helps us understand how we observe the world, basically. So they showed a split brain patient's left eye a card that said walk on it. So that means, or that walk thing, only the right brain saw it, because the way that our body and the brain is wired, that information doesn't go to the left brain. And since he is a split brain patient and he doesn't have a connection, so his left brain didn't have any information about the card. And the patient stood up and started walking after they showed the card. And experimenters asked him, why did you walk? Why did you stand up? And the guy answered with 100% sincerity and belief, I got thirsty and I wanted to get a Coke. Do you want a Coke? Something like that, okay? And this was 100% the honest for him. And it makes sense, because we talk with our left side of the brain, and the talking person didn't have that information, like why he stood up and started walking. But the thing is, it made a story, because he stood up and walked. His left part of the brain made a story, which actually makes sense. It's believable. Probably he's thirsty. And yeah, it's a good reason to stand up and walk all of a sudden, right? Instead of yeah, you showed me a wallpaper and I just walked. Why not? Okay, so there is even a cooler experiment, and it's also more cruel too. In this experiment, they basically show the mute brain, the right brain again, a video of a man getting pushed into a fire. So a little bit fucked up video. And then they asked the patient, like, how are you feeling? The patient said,
I don't really know why, but I'm kinda scared. I feel jumpy. Maybe I don't like this room. Or maybe it's you. You are making me nervous. I know I like Dr. Gazinga.
Gazinga. Okay, sorry.
I know I like Dr. Gazinga, but now I'm scared of him.
Dr. Gazinga writes, the job of the narrator is to seek explanations or causes of events. It is, in other words, a storyteller. And while facts are useful, they don't really matter to him. Most of the time, the first that makes sense works for him, which is controlling how we feel and act. So these experiments are interesting, but you might ask, Sir M. Abe, I don't get the point. So what? Basically, these experiments just means that as we talk, we don't think about all the stuff that we say. And sometimes we talk within our perspective and we create a story, because the narrator is a storyteller. He needs a story. He needs a villain. He needs a hero. And most of the time, he makes you the hero and something else or someone else the villain. So next time when someone says you, "Hi, how are you?" and you answer with what you are doing, the question, "How are you?" ask yourself, why did you answer it that way? Or when someone triggers you, maybe he or she didn't mean to trigger you. You know, just consider it. What I'm saying is, of course, I assume you have your left and right brain connection, so your brains talk with each other, so you're good at that. But you know, it's always that the way we tell the stories to ourselves affects our acts and behavior. So why not try to tell ourselves good stories? And when you catch yourself, tell yourself bad story. Just say, is this actually a bad story, or is this maybe just the way my brain wanted to see? You know, do I have all the information? And I truly believe that all the mistakes that we made, all the bad things that happened to you, at the end brought you here. Maybe you don't like where you are. Maybe you like where you are. That doesn't really matter. But the concept of you that is alive right now, I think should be happy about it. Because if they weren't have to happen, the you right now wouldn't be alive.